Okay, it is 6:30 on the button, so we will open the meeting. We do have quorum. And we will start with approval of the last meeting's minutes. And we have two to approve tonight. We have the December 20th meeting. That was in the Dropbox folder. I hope everybody's had a chance to read it. So I'll entertain a motion that we approve the minutes from December 20th.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. That is a vote. And then we have the January 24th meeting. That also was in the Dropbox. I'll entertain a motion. We accept the January 24th meeting.
I'll make it.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Get that, Ashley? Jacqueline? Sorry. Okay. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. That is a vote, unanimous. And then the February 14th, Jacqueline will have in our Dropbox for the next meeting, right? And that's gonna just be, it's gonna be, we open the meeting,
Yep.
we listen to the school department, and we close the meeting. It'll be that simple. All right? So those are the motions, so those are the minutes. Next, I would like to have an election of a vice chair. As you know, Christian resigned, and I would like to see Christian, the Christian with an E, as vice chair. So I will entertain a motion.
I'll motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. So the motion is to elect Christian Lumiere as vice chair. I have already talked with her. She has agreed to serve. She'll be happy to, she said. So unless there's any further nominations, there being none, we'll close the nominations. All those in favor of Christian, please say yes.
Yes.
Say yes. Opposed, say no. As unanimous. Christian is now our vice chair. So we're going to open up the budget hearings. And we start with technology.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jeff Sorrell, IT Director for Town of Charlton. How's everybody doing?
Good.
You should have a spreadsheet, kind of looks like this, 2 pages or both sides 1 page. I guess first thing in the top right-hand corner, I put FY24 budget, it's 25, so that's a typo on my part. Things that are in red are decreases, things that are in green are increases. Oh, you don't have color? Great, okay. Well, things that are in parentheses are decreases and things that are not are increases. So, I guess account number, second section down, 5117. There's a change there because one of the cell phone stipends is no longer needed because the employee is no longer here. So that's, that can be subtracted.
So just so you guys know,
Why didn't that go?
so Jerry retired, so our push now is to have them come onto the town cell phone plan, cause it's like
Cheaper.
a lot cheaper.
It's
It's like
this was the
$30.
reimbursement.
Right, so I
Yeah.
didn't force, I offered if they wanted to change, I didn't force them. So people that are left here didn't want to come onto the town cell phone plan. So as they retire and somebody replaces them, they are being forced to go onto the towns, cause it's only $30 for us to have a phone opposed to us paying somebody almost $100 a month.
Gotcha.
So it's $30 a month
Yep.
for them to have a phone. And then when they leave, that phone stays with the town, and then it then goes to their successor, so there's no change in cell phone numbers.
Yep.
Cause most of these people are those are their numbers, with the exception of.
Personal phones, yes.
Yeah, so when they leave, they take that number with them.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's why you see that.
Okay.
All right, so the next section, town licenses and software. Real brief overview. If you look down to general code, town clerk, bylaw codification, annual updates, the town clerk informed me that there was a $500 increase for that. 2 items down more, LL Data Designs, dog licensing. Town clerk informed me there was a $100 increase for that. That's the dog licensing software. Down to the section, down to where the item says poll pad annual licenses. We currently have 3 at $300. They bought 6 more, so it's an increase of $1,800. Exactly what that is, I think those are the devices they use to check people in when you go to vote. those little like iPad things that they're
Yes.
using.
So they bought the poll pads through a grant, but then we're in charge of paying for the software for them.
Yeah, and they've got a few more, because they have more, election workers to get people in quicker. So that's what that is, I believe.
Yes.
Underneath that, plotter annual license, that was a service maintenance contract fee for a large-scale printer that we no longer have, so that's gone. Down to ClearGov annual maintenance, that's, obviously, we're all getting used to ClearGov. That went up $1,000, according to what Andrew had told me.
Do you think
Civic
that's gonna
H-
be an annual thing? That-
Yes, these are
Yeah.
all, from what I'm told from
No,
people
but
who
I'm-
use these
do
at the
you
annual. Yes.
anticipate that's gonna go up every year?
I have no
Probably.
idea.
Probably.
I don't pay the bill or see the invoice, so
Yeah,
it's
so the
kinda
ones that are
hard.
in like this section,
This is for-
most of them, like the person who, like the Vadar, I pay those because the Vadar's our
Right.
accounting software, and then like the LL Data, like that's town clerk, but since
clerk.
it's all tech, we put it into one budget, it's easier to keep
Yeah.
track of that way.
And you'll see the next section of licenses and software is like everything I take care of personally.
Yep.
So the next item is the Civic HR software. That was what HR used for applicant tracking and onboarding of people and taking care of hiring and whatnot. And whether they didn't like it or it didn't do what they wanted to do, they got rid of it.
It was no longer offered,
Well, there you go.
yeah, they got bought up by another company and the fee went, so we said, we're not paying for it, so
Yeah.
we found one through our payroll software that's like a quarter of the cost.
Which will be the second thing you
Yeah.
talk about here. Next one down, I don't know if you can see it's highlighted, but maybe this is black and white, but it says clerk LHS tabulators. They bought 5 of those, and it's a $13 brand new line item. I think those are the actual vote counting
Okay.
machines, but don't hold me to that, I'm not exactly sure. But they bought 5 of them. Tabulators, I'm guessing it's what actually counts. And then the last item there, HR Hoppers, that is the new employee tracking software, and you can see it's substantially less than what the other item
And
was.
it might even end up being a little bit less than that.
All right, the next section is all me. Environmental Systems Research, the ArcGIS desktop software, I was informed that that is going up $500 per year. That's the part of the, to deal with the software put on the desktops in different departments for the mapping software, to get all the GIS maps and all that. And the second part of the Muni GIS, a portion of that, the license, that's going up $250 as well. That all has to do with the maps that the planning board uses, the assessors, all those high-end maps that they get. Next one, Viper antivirus licensing. I needed 12 more. They are $20 a piece for a total increase of $240 per year. That's what we put on every device that connects to our network. It's our antivirus software. So that sheet Ashley just gave you, this little invoice, is the next line item, Adobe Acrobat Pro licenses. I needed one more license, and it was $230 a license per person per year. But they raised the price again on those to $275 per person per year, and I just said, no way. So instead of 21, I only renewed 15, so that actually is going down to a total of $41.25. Even with their increase, it's gonna be going down. And by next budget season, I expect to have this impact even more, because that's an insane price for that. I found some software that's pretty close to doing the same thing, and it's $80, one-time flat fee. So that's what we're gonna try to switch over to. All right, the next one, that's my big one. Dual authentication. Right now, we have 45 at $36 per. That's per person per year, $36. What that is two-factor authentication for remote access to our network to connect to any server. So if we want to work from home, we have a laptop to be able to get into our network. Username and passwords just don't cut it. They haven't for a while. We need to get two-factor authentication going everywhere. So the reason why that is increasing from another to 155 to a total of 5580 instead of 1620 is it's going on every computer that connects to our network. When you log in the morning, you get the code, type in the code, logs in for you. If you don't type in that code, you don't log in. It's gonna happen every day. And that's gonna happen along with the desktops, it's gonna happen with people that get email as well. So, Hank, you get your town email?
Yeah.
The first time, and it doesn't happen every time, you have like a 24-hour period,
Yeah.
but when you go to get your email, it's gonna say, please put in the code, you'll get a text, the code, type in that code, your email works. Email accounts have been a little bit of an ongoing issue with them being compromised, so we need to put two-factor authentication on everything. Nothing major has happened, but it's,
155 represents what?
that's,
equipment? Those are all the laptops? I mean.
No, so
No.
any computer here, so like when I go in to log in for the day at my desktop in my office, I'm gonna get a Duo, so in order to log in, I gotta go onto Duo, get the code and
yeah,
type
well,
it in.
or it'll text you.
Right.
Someone like you that has email only, you, as long as we have your phone number, you'll get a text message. You don't have to have an application. Us as employees will have an application, click approve, it lets you in. So that number consists of every computer that connects to the network and anybody who has email for the town as well. Since we're employees, we have computer and email only counts as one, doesn't double up.
Okay.
That's the major security thing that, my largest ask for the year that I'm asking for. And we need to have it. Every bank does it. Nobody just has username and password anymore. You always get a code, type it in, and go. And that's pretty much the bare minimum these
Yeah.
days for
A
security.
lot of our emails are getting like spoofed and stuff too, like they went into an employee's email and sent out like a change of banking information
Yeah, to try and
out
get
to
some
try to
money
get-
for payments and stuff like
right,
that.
and good
We
thing
caught
one of our
that.
vendors caught it and called us. We're like, hey, is this like accurate? Are you guys actually changing your bank information? And it alerted us, and we went in and found the email got spoofed. So somebody hacked
It-
their email and got into all the emails.
It's username and passwords.
Right.
Throw a dictionary hack at it and you're in. For the most part, it won't be that hard. But it'd be nice, with the Duo two-factor authentication. If I'm sitting at home watching TV and I get a prompt saying log in, no, hit deny, locks it out, lets that account not be accessed, I get notified. We research where that came from, reset passwords, make sure reset protocol. So this way, because that means the credentials are compromised, but they still couldn't get in.
Okay.
So that's
Trying
what
to
that is.
eliminate our
Which
Reduce
works
the
great if
ability to get
everybody's got a smartphone.
right. Yes. Yeah.
Well, even if you didn't have a smartphone, you get a text message.
Right.
That's all you'll need.
Oh.
You'll get a code and text message.
Yeah, so like I have Duo now. If I'm working from home ever, I don't remote directly into my desktop, but I can remote in to get into the server, and I can see all the work that's saved onto our
Yeah,
drives.
we
So
got,
I get the
anybody
Duo
going in the
now.
network needs to
Yeah.
have it.
We started that during COVID.
Yes, and that's why that's why 45, there are 45 licenses currently. Those are people working remotely or vendors that need to get in to the network. That's what that states now, but it's gonna be everything that connects to our network. So that's that one. That's my big one. The next one is Barracuda Email Archiver. That's our town email archive server that stores every message ever sent or received ever, for everybody that ever had an email in this town. And that went up $500. So the last section, really quick, telecommunications, Harbor Networks, Mitel phone system. That is the phone network system hardware and software. All the maintenance and service contracts, that went up $1,900. And pretty soon that will probably need to get replaced as well in the near future. But that's,
The Mitel system, or just,
yeah, they
All of our
want to go
phones.
everything VoIP, no servers. They don't want to have any POTS lines. They don't want to have any T1 lines coming in or anything like that. They want to go like a full-fledged. And there are pluses and minuses to that, but we've got a few years before we have to worry about it. So I'll be working on that next. I'm going to skip the next one for a second and just go down to Verizon-owned cell phones, an increase of $1,200. I believe, Ashley and I were talking, that was another cell phone that needed to be purchased.
I think it's gonna be I'm assuming they're gonna give the new lieutenant a cell phone at PD. So we're gonna have to add another phone to the line, so it's $30 for 12 months, so
And then there was
it might not
another.
even be that much.
Yeah, I don't even think it's gonna be that much, but I think there might have been one or two phones.
Yeah, I'll look at it too, once we get closer to setting the budget, I'll look at it to make sure it's accurate, like what our most recent bill is, and add an extra in there for that, if we add another phone.
All right, so above that, you see a large increase. This is New Horizon phone calls. That's basically the phone bill, kind of like the gas bill, the oil bill, the electric bill. Nothing to do with my network or hardware or software, but that's actually the charge for the actual phone calls. Kind of like you buy your phone, you get charged for it, that's the hardware, but the phone bill you get, that's what that is. And I called Ashley this year, I'm like, can you give me last 12 months of the phone bill? And she said, it was 42,000. I'm like, well, I'm only budgeted for 30, so,
42,000 for a phone, for a landline.
for the whole town.
For the whole
Yeah.
For the
town.
whole town, for all the phone calls made. I mean, that's,
Mm-hmm.
police department, fire department, here,
Yep.
everywhere.
Yeah,
So,
that bill's not cheap.
we were discussing it, we should, obviously, that's what it is, it needs to get paid, this is a phone bill, but it kind of belongs in the municipality, with all the other,
So I'll probably move it to our municipal office budget to be
Yeah,
in line
so
with like the
You're
gas,
saying it's-
electric.
It's no different than diesel fuel for the trucks.
Right.
yeah, it's the phone bill, it's not the hardware network that I take care of, it's an actual
Yeah.
utility.
So I'll move it.
If it
over
gets
to
funded, then
municipal.
she'll pull the money out of that account, put it towards the municipal. And that's all I have.
What's the comparison, excuse me, what was the total last year? Do we have that?
I think it's gonna be, this was your total last year, those are gonna be all your increases, right?
Is it here?
I think so.
I'm not exactly sure, I
there's
think
no
that was, I think that's total now.
Yeah, that's what I assumed, the 379 is fiscal year
With the-
25.
Oh, it was close, you were 384, 100 last year, so he was 309, 300 in expenses. I'm just looking at last year's budget. So you're a little different. Right now you're at 402, but I think because we added something else in there.
Well, I had 12,000 for the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, for the phone bill.
Yeah. So last year he was at 384, 100.
384, so it's dropped 10 grand?
No, I think his increases aren't included into this number, but I think that from when he originally asked, we had to tweak some numbers because some things came in different before we set budget last year.
And he's for what?
Right now, he's with salaries and everything, it's 402, 936.
So
10%, that's a phone bill.
390 with the phone bill removed.
Right, yeah.
Well, less than that.
12,000.
Well, no,
Oh,
sorry, it's gonna be
budget.
42,000
Yeah,
out of
42.
No,
his.
but it was off from budget 12?
Yeah,
Yeah, so Jeremy, that 379 at the bottom, he's right, that doesn't include any of the green numbers.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that was last year's.
Yep.
So that's the only downside to not completely updating all of these every year now, is that it's nicer to look at this than it is to look at the ClearGov stuff, because this is all itemized.
Yep.
That's the only downside to those ones. But if I look at last year's budget, like the total budget, that's what was voted at town meeting was 384, 100.
So if we're gonna be looking at these kinds of budgets at the meetings, it's gonna then behoove you to look at the previous
Yes.
years
Yeah.
before tonight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, the bold numbers totaled are without the increase, correct.
Yeah.
So that was probably last year's original budget that he asked for, but we probably tweaked it a little bit because the salary probably wasn't updated, or we found something that we had to add last minute before we voted at town meeting.
It was
So
nice
it's
and
a little
easy on
while.
the last meeting, because it was all there,
Yeah.
that's why I asked. But, I don't have any questions about, I think the multi-factor authentication is, I'm very familiar with that. I work at a bank. I understand that completely. And, the phone bill is the other one, obviously. I don't think there's much we can do about that.
So, quick numbers off the top of my head, it looks like you're increasing by about 15,000 from last year?
Yeah, give or take,
Yeah, give or
which
take.
12 of that is the phone bill,
Right.
so that will come out.
Right.
Right. Okay. Any other questions of Jeff? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All good. Anytime you're ready, chief.
Good evening.
So we got two new members, chief, if you want to introduce yourself.
Ed Knopf,
Ray Belsita, right?
Jeremy Foskett,
Jeremy, probably seen you around before.
I'm sure.
fairly regular at the Cole House, so. So, you want me to go into that great a detail as Jeff just did?
Hit the high points, chief.
Um,
And make your rating bigger. I gotta actually use my glasses now for this one, okay?
So high points are, last year I came in looking for 4 new hires and put the proposal out there to, we're gonna need 4 across across each group. And I was open to any and all suggestions. Last year, we were able to fund 2, so this year I'm looking for the other 2, to bring it to 6 a shift. That's one of the big, plus their clothing allowance as well, so those are the 2 increases there. The other thing I have, the increase, and this is, I asked for the same amount last year, 320,000 in the overtime line item. It got put to 280. And you'll see me again in March looking for money because the overtime budget is probably over 280 right now.
Okay.
I'm expecting about 70,000 over.
About 70,000 for the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I think couple weeks ago, I think you were like 75% spent.
Yeah,
I knew you know that.
at the end of January, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
In January, 75%.
Yeah, spent,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Which most people are like about 50
Yep.
in their budget because we're halfway through.
But as I explained to you earlier, with some hiring issues that we had, our regular salary item will probably be able to offset a lot of that, so.
Yep.
The one thing I did also add was I put in a $5,000 line item for dry hydrant and cistern repair and maintenance. For those of you that don't know, Charlton doesn't have that many hydrants, so we rely on other sources for water, and some of that is dry hydrants, which are, we put in a pipe in nearby ponds or anywhere that water collects. And also cisterns in new developments, we require a 20,000-gallon tank to be put in somewhere in the development so that we have a water supply when we arrive on scene. Some of the older ones have become either dried up due to just, the environment, or they were put in with PVC piping, and over time, the PVC piping is gonna break down and wear out. So that's why I added the $5,000 line item to kind of start repairing and rebuilding those.
Where is that? I must have.
That's in his new budget, the colored one.
Oh,
with the-
Second
Yeah.
page.
Yeah, it'd be on page 2, about halfway down in red.
It's under his expense there, the expense line
Yep.
on page 2.
So some of them are compromised right now?
Yeah. We've got, cracked pipes. And with, being able to get water out of them, there's gotta be a complete seal. And if there's air getting into them, we're never gonna be able to get water out of them. So, we've gotta look to repair them or replace the PVC with some steel piping.
What was your average shift? I'm looking for the right word. I know you're looking for 6 per shift, but what was your average this past year with?
So right now I have 2 groups that have 6 a shift, and I have 2 groups that have 5 a shift.
Okay. So we're that close to meeting your goal?
Yeah. And we also have a 4-man minimum, so with 6, we'd be able to drop 2 without incurring any overtime, so that's kind of, there's another financial benefit on the other side as well. Is being able to reduce the amount of overtime available.
Yeah.
And again, the overtime budget is, and I know Keith would know this, injuries, academies, new members going to the academy. I had 3 people that were out on injury for at least a month. So backfilling all of those scenarios just added up.
Pretty simple ask this year, all things considered.
Everything else is salary, and that's contractual.
Right. And major equipment, we've already talked, we know about, that's a capital expenditure. Nothing else, it looks like it's changed on your budget.
There are, you know, there's incremental increases in some of the
Yeah.
expend items just because that's, you know, the nature of the beast.
Yep. So this is a ClearGov report, right?
No, that is
This
not.
is the old Excel spreadsheet that we used to update. The ClearGov report, if I print it, only looks like this. What I gave you for building.
Right,
So you get a lot more detail with the Excel spreadsheet because they itemize everything.
right, but
We don't get that.
on either
ClearGov.
one, we're not getting last year versus this year. That's,
I can add it for the ClearGov one, it just, if the departments don't update the Excel spreadsheet for the last year's, like I used to update all of these and send them out to everybody.
right.
But we don't do that anymore, but some departments still like to upkeep this, cause they can see all the itemized on it, like, yeah. So a lot of departments still update, like I know police still updates theirs, Jeff still updates his, so I give you them, cause you can at least see all the itemized. I can give you last year versus this year for ClearGov, cause it's in there,
I can give you last year's ask.
yeah.
I don't have last year's,
I have the Excel spreadsheet from last year, I can go back and update it,
what
cause I
was
have your
actually,
last year.
what was actually voted on.
Past, I have that, cause I have the budget here.
No, I'm not,
But
I'm not
I can give
thinking
you
about
a
last year's
ClearGov.
ask, just, budgeted, voted
Yeah.
budget, right?
Yeah,
Versus
so-
this year's ask.
I can give you that for all the departments in the ClearGov ask. It's on, it's in your big budget right now.
Okay.
But I can give that to you if that's what you wanna see for ClearGov. It's just gonna look like the one
This is
for
when we're
building.
doing these hearings on a one-on-one for one department.
Yeah.
It's just nice to be able to go back and say,
Yeah,
geez, you're up 10%, why, instead of, all right,
right.
1.5%, 2%, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody understands that,
I'll add it for the,
but we don't see that.
I'll add it for your next budget and I'll do that going forward. I'll give you, it'll just be the ClearGov version of it.
Yep.
And, you know, I can give you some additional information based on what I know, like, in particular, if you go into expense, my annual fees and contracts, that's significant from last year's, just because we're getting our records management software replaced. And so we've got to close out one, and then we had to purchase another one, which was $10,000. So there's a difference there.
Okay.
No, so this is good, there's a trade-off, really, but this is a more detailed report versus the other, that is easier to give you the
Right.
last year's and this year.
Right, and it saves me a lot of time, cause I used to go in and update everyone's spreadsheets for them and it was every department. So I mean, obviously ClearGov saves us a lot of time, you just don't get all the detail. But I can go through and edit the ClearGov report to print to give you it for each department, so you have last year versus this year.
That's great.
We'll work on that.
Yeah.
We'll get that one done.
But I figured these are nice to see, cause a lot of, if the department's itemized, it's nice to see all the stuff out.
Cancer screening and prevention, Chief. And I see that it's 5 per year, so everybody,
So
every couple, 3 years.
every year we send 5 employees to go, there's a firefighter cancer screening thing where Harrington Hospital partnered with us, and it's $850 per person.
Yep. Is that something mandated or just
Not mandated,
recommended?
we're just trying to, with our health and wellness program, trying to make sure that we catch it early detection and stuff like that. We've actually had a couple of people who, had to seek further treatment on some things,
Really?
yeah.
Will save us in the long run on health insurance.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, you're constantly in hazardous environments.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason. We, with a lot of the new employees, the first time through is kind of a baseline thing for them to find out where they are. For old guys like me, it's just making sure.
Right, right. All right, any questions of the chief?
Chief, do you wanna go through your capital asks too?
We can.
Is that here, or?
It's at the very end of your pack, well, not the very end, the run right before the budget.
Is it this one?
Yeah. So it looks like this.
Yeah.
Right before the big budget there at the very end.
So one of the things I've done is I've put a 10-year capital purchase plan together. It's just a revolving plan. And this gives you itemized up until FY '27 as to what we're looking to replace. And obviously, the big ticket item for this year is the vote on the station. But we have a station alerting system that we're looking to input into the stations. And that price will be the same, even if the new station gets approved, that'll get absorbed into that. We're looking for another ambulance this year, just because of constant use and the delays. And as I was telling the chairman earlier today, we're 2 years out on an ambulance and we're still waiting for it.
Yeah, it seems to be a common problem.
Yeah, so.
With everything, not
Yep.
just,
So once I found out that it went into production, I said, let's order another one because we don't know when we're gonna get it. And
So what I'll do is, we're gonna go for it for town meeting in the spring, and he'll be able to, I mean, obviously, we're not gonna pay for it, but the cash would be available for July 1st. And we'll take it all out of that ambulance revolving receipts reserve account they have that we vote money out of. So instead of being the 1.1 that we usually vote out, or, for the spring, it will be more, because it will include the ambulance in there.
And so for FY '26, we're looking to replace it's a 2001 engine. So that's coming due. And the SCBA packs and bottles and the compressor, that's the air tanks that we wear going in, and the packs that they're fitted for. That's a price tag that is kind of just a placeholder because we apply for grants every year, and that's one of the items we're looking to get through the grant, hopefully, in the grant process.
But you actually have down here on paper, $1 million for a fire truck.
I put that there, yeah, just because it's
Things aren't getting cheaper.
the
I
last,
know, we were talking about this earlier, but I didn't know whether he was being facetious, $1 million for a fire truck.
Yeah, no,
or-
it's been on there for a while.
the last one we got
$1 million.
was 800,000.
And that was, I think, what, 2019, 2020?
I think it might be a 21.
Okay.
is that the Amazon one?
No, that's a rescue truck,
Yeah.
and that was 800 plus,
Yeah,
and that doesn't even have a tank or a hose on it.
it's extra.
And of course, yeah, a new ambulance for $425. Unbelievable what vehicles go for today.
Yeah.
Any questions on the chief's capital budget?
Pretty simple.
And like I said earlier, anybody wants to come down, visit, or have a further in-depth conversation, my door's always open.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, chief.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy what's left of your evening. All right, recreation. Hello,
Hi, Diane Doherty, Charlton Recreation Commissioner.
welcome, Diane.
Thank you. We're really not asking for any difference from last year to this year. So the budget is pretty much presented as, as is the last couple of years, actually. We do have a couple of projects coming up, though. We're going to be resurfacing a pickleball court over Charlton Middle, and the shed at the Little League Snack Shack is in dire repair of being rebuilt, to be rebuilt, as well as the snack shack down at the football field. Not the shack, I'm sorry. The announcer's booth at the football field is falling apart. So those are things we're looking at down the road, how we can help the different leagues. But with our small budget, we did cut back on 2 porta potties. Most of our budget is porta potties expense. We did cut back on 2, but with the increased vandalism, we've had to add an additional money to that monthly because Slim's Berthium is, goes down and takes care of the graffiti that's inside. And we're looking at cameras with Jeff IT to see if we can enhance the visual down there to prevent some of it, but that's been an ongoing issue. We had some graffiti damage as well over at the skate park that we had to absorb paint costs. But Highway Department has been awesome helping us out with, anything that we need, so. We did have a pitcher's mound rebuilt as well, and DPW assisted, CCL Landscape actually did the work, but Jerry Foskett, when he was there, he pitched, his department pitched in some money to help us rebuild that pitcher's mound at Memorial Field, because it was very costly. It was something that we just didn't have, so. And that was a long time coming. That mound was really, it's been disrepair for a couple of years. So now Bay Path uses it, Shepherd Hill uses it, the bigger leagues use the field, so it's, makes it kinda nice.
Didn't realize that pitcher's mounds were that complex.
So, and the rest of the budget is
Yeah.
the Memorial Day expense. We haven't even used that money, but Old Home Day is part of that expense, and that's taken care of by that Old Home Day committee. So if they need the money, they access it that way. So of our budget, it's usually, well, when you break it down, it's 11,300 of that 18,900 is what we actually use.
One of the smallest budgets I think in town. And I'm surprised
So-
with the advent of pickleball, you don't have a pickleball proposal in here.
Well, we're working on it, we're excited, we're really excited. We're taking bids right now, and hopefully you'll see something spring, summer take place over there.
We got, somebody donated us money to
Yep.
build the court.
Yep, we did, we've got
Yes,
partial
we got
funding
that.
of it, so, yeah. But it's gonna be costly to actually redo the courts. It's the 2 tennis courts that are over there, and they're gonna redo them. And then the schools can also use them in the gym program, and it'll be open to the public when school's out, non-school hours and school vacations. So the public has been asking for some pickleball areas, and there's just not any land to do it, so
It'd
we're
be nice
excited.
too, because Andrew and I had toured the school like two years ago, a year and a half, and those courts are, and they can't use them, they're
They don't even use them for tennis, no.
nothing. They're, the basketball
Really?
court
Oh.
down there and the tennis court down
Yeah,
there
they're all
are
cracked. It's like New England,
Yeah.
it cracks just like taking care of the skate park, that's always cracking. So,
Yeah.
So it'll be nice that they'll get to use them too.
yes, yes. So Recreation is trying to get, as much into that as far as funding goes. And there's a Eagle Scout that is taking on the project to help with the funding and the repairs and maybe add some, some landscaping issues, benches, whatever, equipment. So he's involved in it too, which we're excited.
It'd be nice if, yes, you did that, because I know that in the senior community center proposal, there's 2 pickleball courts included in that,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yes,
Me either.
with him. Right, so,
Yeah,
if-
I didn't know that either.
yeah, so if you do it, then we can cut it out of their budget, okay?
Well, the new thing is the indoor courts. Everybody's looking at indoor
Oh, we're
pickleball
not
now.
West Boylston, okay, with,
Sturbridge just opened one.
Sturbridge and West Boylston had a grand opening too,
I heard,
indoor.
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 So if we have any indoor facilities available, that would be good too.
No, those were planned for outdoors, believe me, Diane.
So,
All right.
the pickleball court, the snack shack, you meant, those will all be requests for, in the capital budget
So
at some
right now, they
point?
have some money for the Maynard Field project that's been ongoing, so that's
Yeah, they may.
hopefully encompassed, plus I think Andrew's gonna do some of the Amazon money that Amazon donated for recreation.
Okay.
To take care of that project, and then I haven't talked to him fully about pickleball yet, but I know we have a little bit of a donation, but I think he was waiting to see what how it came in
Yep,
to know.
yeah,
what
I
we
already
were
spoke
gonna
with
do.
him, and he said that, whatever we needed to complete the pickleball would probably come from the Amazon money,
Okay,
so that would be good, yeah.
awesome.
Thank you very much. I don't,
Thank you.
unless you guys got any more questions, I mean, that's very easy.
No, Thank you very much.
True, thank you very much,
Thank you
Tanya,
for
for
your time.
coming in. And now, you think Kurt's gonna let his,
I think he's in his office.
oh, okay. I thought maybe he was gonna let his pictures do his talking for him.
He might.
Picture's worth 1,000 words, and he said 2 of them.
You're welcome. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Diane.
So just so you guys all know, so hopefully from that, because I listened to that school meeting, hopefully we have numbers for them like beginning of March would be nice. But it sounds like we probably won't get them till their budget workshop, and I think that's after or the same day as our March meeting.
Yeah, they
So
have
you might not see budget till later in March.
2, I believe, right? They have one in February.
I think they have one at the end of February and then one in March, but I don't know if the one, from what he said, it sounded like we wouldn't get numbers until March. So I don't know if they'll release them if they get E&D certified, if he'll release them before that, or if school committee has to see them first and vote and then they release them. I think that's how it has to go, so I don't know. We might not see a balanced budget until end of March.
Until end of March, okay.
So, right now, what you have, I don't think this has any cuts in it at all. Let me look, 'cause I know like where. So Andrew and I have been working, yeah, so the budget you see in front of you doesn't have, so Andrew and I have another working doc outside of ClearGov that has some cuts in it. We wanna try to stay
Wait,
as
how
conservative
much
as
is this-
possible.
How much is this budget over revenues? Or is it?
No, you're under still.
We're still under?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but you're using all your excess levy capacity that we're trying to save to try to do some of that fire station within the levy limit. Because we had over 700,000 in excess levy capacity last year.
Okay.
So, right now you're using almost all of it, but 16,000.
Mhm.
So, we're trying to stay as conservative. Obviously, some of this has some fluff in it. We don't know how the board feels about adding any bodies. From what I've heard, they're not on board with adding bodies this year, but they always make a caveat for public safety, so I don't know how they'll feel. This does have, like, I know Kurt's asking for a part-time person, and I think he funded it as a full-time position, but he said part-time. So that's what I was gonna ask him, but I think we cut it down to a part-time person. Oh yeah, Andrew has it in here as a part-time person.
Does that save us on benefits?
Yeah,
if
so
we don't have
part-time
to-
would be under benefited, so benefit is anything over 20 hours, this would be something under 20, so you don't have to pay health insurance or any benefits to them, no sick vacation, nothing. And then obviously the school number's not updated, so.
It's not in the office.
Is that in there? Oh,
Would he
okay.
be in the planning board meeting?
He could be.
Kind of want to-
Give him a couple minutes, he knows he's coming. The school budget is just an estimate of what we're estimating it's gonna be in there right now, so that could come down, could go up. So we're trying to be as conservative as possible.
Explain to Ray and Jeremy, under the levy limit, how that works. Okay.
So,
Good
right
point.
now, if you look at the last page of like that big budget, if you see amount from revenue budget, so the 40,895,000-ish, so that's like what we're estimating our budget to be, so that's to stay within the amount of Prop 2.5 increase plus new growth, what we're estimating new growth to be right now. We have to stay within this number. If we go over it, you'd have to have an override, which we don't wanna do. So, for us, from talking with Andrew, last year when we closed to set tax rate, we had 700,000 in excess levy, which means we didn't spend all the money that we raised. So in order to hold that, we'd have to cut this budget back a little bit, because our plan is to save it, to use it to pay for some of the fire station under the levy limit. Because right now, we think numbers are going up again, and you're already at 17 million for an ask. So, just
So by
assuming,
being under the levy limit, we
Right.
don't have to go out.
right, no overrides, no, nothing. But you
Right.
can only do debt exclusions for a project, so in this case, we wouldn't have to have any sort of an override, which I know the board isn't in favor of any of that, so, we're trying to stay as conservative as possible in hopes that we can get that fire station to pass. So, that's our goal.
When do we start seeing some marketing on?
I think
fire
he
station?
said he'll have a final figure by the beginning of April. So at very end of March, beginning of April. So we'll have like a month to push it out.
I was gonna say, that's a.
He'll have
short-
like everything like we'll be ready to go out to bid for construction documents at that point.
Yeah, but I'm going,
I know.
this is a sell, okay?
I know.
To the town. And if you're only gonna give everybody 4 weeks or 5 weeks, that's not a long time frame, in my opinion.
Right.
I don't know what you guys think, whether somebody needs to tell these people, you better get it.
They need
Right.
to hear it repetitively.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I know that he's been kind of pushing out the plans out there, like the original plans that we have, but obviously the stuff is gonna change, because they're just documents, they need to get to the design phase to know how much it's gonna cost, so they can send that out to construction bids, so the exact measurements of the building or whatever they have to do for that. So that's the phase that they're in now, trying to design all that with their OPM.
Mm-hmm.
From
Wait,
last
so
I talked to him,
you're trying to save 700 of that,
maybe not the whole 7, but we're trying to stay
Right.
as conservative as possible
Right.
too.
so, but we're not gonna have two budgets, one if that passes and one if it doesn't, right?
No, probably
No,
not.
we're gonna
No.
come up with a
Yeah. So,
budget.
I mean, even just to stay conservative is,
Right,
is.
and if the fire station doesn't pass, then we just.
We have more excess levy next
We have that
year.
excess for down the
Yeah,
road,
yeah.
okay,
And we can always spend it at fall town meeting. You're not
true,
held to it because we have that. It's money that we've raised. It's just sitting out there. We're not taxing everybody on it.
right.
So if we wanna go and spend it at fall town meeting, it would just raise taxes.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where we're at. Can't really do anything until we know the school number.
Right, until we know the
That's
school
the
number.
biggest number, yeah. So that's,
Always is.
yeah, I can't really do much. Just like a waiting game at this point. So we've gotten kind of as far as we can, I think at this point. Until we know more of the salary survey, we should have numbers for our March meeting, we're hoping, we'll have like a final report from them. It might not be public yet, but we'll at least have a final report. I think they want to see it with all the department heads before we finalize it, to make sure that they're on board with everybody and introduce it to them, so it's not like a scare to everybody. So hopefully we have that to give to you guys for our March meeting.
Ashley, can you talk through, I know we've talked a couple times about like contract or conversations about salaries and
Yeah.
things like that, and how that just plays out from a timeline.
So when we originally do budget, when it's due to me in January or end of December, I have, non-unions don't touch their salaries, for anyone non-union. The unions, if they have a contract for the next year, they update their numbers. And then if we have 3 contracted employees with the Board of Selectmen, the town administrator, the fire chief, and the police chief, if their contracts are valid, they can update their increases. And then right now, we're only waiting this long because of the salary survey. Usually by now, the board would kind of give Andrew a direction like, hey, let's go 2.5, let's go 2. Like, they'd give him a direction and say what's the difference in price, or how much it's gonna cost the town, a 2 versus a 2.5, or a 2.5 versus 3, whatever they say. And then usually I would factor all those numbers in to the budget to try to get us balanced. Usually we're balanced by the beginning of March,
Mhm.
with the exception of last year, because it was an election year for the governor, so the budget was late. But normally, we have some sort of right now, I think we factored in just like an average 3% in for everybody.
Okay.
But the board usually dictates to Andrew what they want to see for an increase.
And remind me when that salary study.
So that salary survey, I hope we have numbers for our March meeting.
Okay.
Can
If
you-
not the March meeting, you'll have it for our second meeting in March.
Can you explain how, if, say, the fire department passes, where it gets allocated in the budget? Is
So
it
that's the-
long-term debt, or?
So the payment for it, if they allow it to be an exclusion,
Yep.
you'll see the revenue budget would increase by the amount, but you'd also have the same amount under the debt service.
Debt service, okay.
Yeah, so you'd
What do
see
we
it.
have right now under debt service?
So right now, all we have in debt service for long-term is the highway facility, which falls off in FY '25, so that's gonna be gone, so that 180 will be gone. We have the South Charlton Reservoir, hang on, sorry, the South Charlton Reservoir dam that we replaced, we're paying on that. The fire engine, that 120,000, I wanna say that falls off in another couple years too. The Maynard Field improvements, we're still paying on that, and I think that falls off of maybe FY '28 or FY '30, somewhere around there. That's coming up kind of sooner. And then the, public safety, construction, complex plans, we just started borrowing that a couple years ago, so that's got a while. That and the South Charlton Reservoir, those two still have a while left to go. And then that fire tanker truck, that falls off this year,
How much was that?
141,000.
So we're freeing up almost 320,000
Yeah.
in long-term debt payments.
What, at 17 million, how much would it impact us on the budget?
So our preliminary game plan is to try to keep the construction portion of it under the or
No,
as a
design-
debt
I
exclusion,
thought
so
the
that like
design
12,
was-
13 million number would be excluded. And then we try to put the rest of it under the levy limit. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what it wasn't, like a terrible number, it was definitely something that we could,
You can handle it.
yeah.
I thought it was like about 3 million or 3.5 million, somewhere in that, we come under the levy limit.
Yeah, right, yeah, that amount, yeah, so I don't know, like, I'd have to look up what the debt payment on that would be, I don't remember off the top of my head. But if you're talking, so just for, I guess, reference, that 45,000 for the public safety, we borrowed 1.4 million, and that's 20 years.
20 years.
And 1.4, so even if you just say, if it was 3 million and you tripled that number
Right.
for
That's-
20 years, yeah, cause we'll go out for the 20, on the borrowing, cause it's a building, so try to go out as long as we can.
Mhm.
So you'd absorb that under the levy.
Right.
And then the rest of it would be an exclusion, so your revenue budget would increase by the same amount, your expense budget increases if everything else stayed the same because of the exclusion, so it washes itself out.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as the debt exclusion part, but because these other projects are dropping off the budget.
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
It kind of keeps, maybe the tax rate would somewhat stay the same.
Right,
Get
so
rid of-
right now, your highway facility is an exclusion, so that's gonna fall off.
Mhm.
Bay Path has an exclusion. I don't remember how much longer that's for, and then the, fields from Shepherd Hill have an exclusion, those are your 3 exclusions I have left. If I remember correctly. So your highway facility falls off this year, so that's the last of our debt that falls off, everything else is school-related that we have left.
Yeah, when we get to that point, it would be nice to see that, the comparison, I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll see it, but of what's dropping off versus potentially coming on
Yeah, I
on
can
an
bring that
annual
to our
basis.
next meeting if you guys wanna see it.
Yeah.
And I can get you the actual figures. I know the 180 plus that 7,200 in interest, was for the highway facility. I know for sure that falls off in FY 25, cause it actually falls off halfway, so we'll have one more principal payment and one more interest payment left, and then we're all done. So that, usually that interest payment is double the 72, so the 72 is what's left. So I know for sure that falls off, but I can bring a debt schedule for the next meeting, and we can see how much
Yeah.
longer we have on things.
That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
And maybe by March, I don't know if Andrew will have better numbers for anything for the fire station, I can try to bring,
Well, and so you said that they'll have like the schematics and ready to go out to bid, but
Yes.
we won't have any numbers back based on the schematics, I would assume?
no, so
Or-
the, I believe, this will be my first building, so bear with me. So I believe the way it works is they'll have an estimate based on market from
Okay,
the architect,
okay,
on what they estimate it to be, and with them in the OPM, they'll be able to get as close as possible for a number for us to go out to bid, and then obviously it might fluctuate a little bit.
right,
But
okay,
we have a not to exceed price on there, cause that's what we'll pass at town meeting.
I got you.
So it's gotta go, so any debt exclusion has to go to a ballot vote and a town meeting vote. Our plan, so what will be different from the public safety building last time, is on the ballot vote, cause we're gonna see that first, is that there's a not to exceed debt exclusion price on the ballot, which we didn't have last
Okay.
time for the public safety building. Because technically the ballot doesn't vote the project, town meeting does. The ballot is just voting whether it's an exclusion or within the levy limit.
Yep,
So our plan, because we're gonna put a cap on that number, is to put that number on the ballot, so everyone can see that, so your debt exclusion will exceed that cost. And then, anything else we would have to absorb in under the levy limit.
and I assume if, worst case scenario, like the bids all came back above that number, it would have to be revoted or
They'd have,
whatever.
I'm assuming they would have to come back to town meeting, or they'd have to go back and start cutting stuff out of the
Well,
building.
you can do it the opposite way, too.
We could, so you could go to town meeting first.
Well, you can go out and say, look, to your architect, I got 17 million to build this building.
Yeah,
What can we build?
right,
and then it works down from there, so it's not gonna be going cost over.
Right. So right now, they have a design of what they want for a building, and then they'll go and they'll bid based on that cost, and I'm assuming if that comes in a ridiculous number, they're gonna have to change something. Because right now, the estimate was 17 million-ish with some soft costs in there. So, he's hoping it's not much more over that. But I think another town just went out and their bid, I think, was 2 million over. Their like new numbers that came, I think, were 2 million over what
What
they
town?
originally had. I don't know what town, I don't know off the top of my head, but there's another town going out for a fire station.
Yep.
I think, and theirs was, I think, almost 2 million or like 1.5 million over what their original ask was, something like that. It was a big number.
Ashley, would you mind checking to see if
Oh, yeah,
Chris
I'll check it out.
is available? Because if
I
he's
don't know
not,
if he's in the planning board. meeting.
Pope, you can,
Can I
Pretty much
ask a
done.
question
yeah.
from the audience to the chair, is it possible?
yes, it is.
I'm just
I
curious.
figured you didn't just come up to check on
Well,
it.
I did come to listen, but I'm just curious about the discrepancies between the request documents in the packet and the summary budget documents.
So this budget, I believe, has some increases for salaries in here. We plugged like a placeholder in there. And some of them we might have preliminary went through if we saw some fluff in there, or maybe a little of an edit, and we might have edited them. But if you're looking at tech, his budget isn't completely updated either.
But even like recreation department, that's 1,500 in one and 3,000 in the other. And
That might just be my error. I think they increased, and I think I might have just taken the other one.
Okay.
But I think we just had an increase for them for the stipends.
And then the department head request on one doesn't have an increase. Curtis can speak to this, but, and the other one does, so just curious.
Was it for salaries? So salaries, we went in, no one touched their budgets in ClearGov yet. We went in and added a little bit of an increase in here, so we'll have to try to get a somewhat balanced budget. So we went in and added like a placeholder in, because we are going through a salary survey at the moment. So no one's salaries are set, because we're gonna go through and take that into consideration before we touch salaries. But I think Andrew and I add like a little placeholder in on the big budget for everybody, just so we can try to get to a twelve number.
We like to think of it as a work in progress.
Yeah,
I think you're
How
early
you
in the
doing?
progress right now, right?
we are a little early.
You're doing great.
Evening, how are we tonight?
Good. Good, we got a couple of new members if you
I
want to
see,
introduce.
I heard that there was a Foskett on
Yeah,
here.
Jeremy Foskett.
Jeremy?
We've met before, yeah, you came out to the house.
Okay, I've been to a lot of houses.
I'm
Seems
sure.
to be my job.
I'm sure.
And
I'm Ray
Raymond
Belcito.
Belcito, oh, there's a Chief Belcito.
Yep, my cousin Matt.
Yep, okay. And there's a whole bunch of Fosketts in Charlton, so I won't embarrass Jeremy. Maybe he's related to Jerry or
Yeah.
one of them.
But Ray is with Arnie's Auto.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Down the street.
So he's a Charlton businessman too, not just a resident.
Yeah. Glad to have him.
So, I was gonna say, walk us through your budget, but we got a letter and a couple of pictures.
You know, it's not really a big thing, you know, we want to thank you for supporting the full-time building, assistant building commissioner. He's been with me part-time for a little while, Mr. Fenner. He got his commissioner's certificate. We gave him a, you know, knowledge and skills bump and everything, and he just informed us today that he's taking the commissioner's job in Palmer.
Come on.
You know, it happens. It's 5 minutes away, right? It's the commissioner's job. There's
Yeah.
a significant bump in pay. They wanted him. He was working, when he was working part-time for us, he was working part-time for Palmer.
Oh, okay, so there was
And
already
he
a
continued to
connection.
work part-time for Palmer. And their commissioner, Bonnie Weeks, retired around September, October.
Okay.
And they've been sort of doing the dance, and it wasn't gonna come to fruition, but the city council there made it work as well.
Okay.
But I do, you know, we're gonna go out for advertisement. Guy we call Bill 1.0, because this was Bill 2.0, William Fenner, who was my part-time local inspector before, is apparently moving back into the neighborhood. So he'll certainly be interviewed and welcome back if he's the most qualified candidate, and, he moved to Florida.
Can he be Bill 3.0?
No, I think we'll still call him Bill 1.0.
Okay.
So that's gone. I'm asking again for a full-time administrative assistant to support the office. We still push tons of paper, even though we hammer on the electronic permitting system. Tons of questions get asked, and I'm sure you all know that I'm doing on the commercial side. I assign my locals to the residential side, keep them in that, train them up, as a replacement maybe. But I've been doing, we have a few small projects, Amazon and LNG plant, we're starting to see some requests through the planning board for, multifamily housing projects. There's a couple of site plans in for that, so that'll be interesting. I think we're gonna start seeing some of the offshoot development from Amazon, the 241 Sturbridge Road project, the 1,000,002 square foot warehouse out by the Sturbridge line. Broke ground for site work this fall. They're moving away along slowly. They haven't announced a tenant. They say they don't have a tenant. But there must be some need.
Yeah. Nobody builds 1,000,000 square feet without knowing.
They haven't applied for the building permit yet. They've got a long way to go on the site work. They've got to knock off a bunch of hill there.
Right.
They're surrounded by wetlands. They have all their drainage and infrastructure, so they're working towards a pad site.
Yeah. I went by there this afternoon, and they're maybe 1,000 feet in, if they're even 1,000
Yeah,
feet in.
with the road, but if you could get in there, the back of it up over the hill is cleared and,
Oh, it is?
yeah.
If you come in from the Sturbridge side, you can really see a lot of the trees, because I drive it every day. You can really notice a lot
Oh,
of the trees
okay,
are
so
gone.
yeah, I don't do
Yeah.
it from that side.
So they did that. And, there's some questions about other various properties in town, there was a question about a property, kitty corner from CVS, and a serious question about what the height limitations were and what had to happen for that, for an industrial building, and our answer was, well, industrial is a pretty broad category. You better narrow that down to something, because there is no industrial line in the zoning bylaw, but we do allow a tall building, something like a 70-foot tall building there.
Really?
And then and if people are asking those kinds of questions, they're doing some serious due diligence.
Yep.
They've probably been doing some site, we know that there've been surveyors on that site, a year ago. So, some stuff is coming.
Right here. Right at the corner here at
Yeah,
CVS?
kitty corner, yeah, so with the blue water tank,
Yep.
yeah, that corner, that's a property that's been looked at for development for as long as I've been in this town. Long ago, there was an auto auction place that wanted to go there, that didn't come to fruition. We had the Conover development, which was probably gonna have a Lowe's in it and some big supermarket that went out in the, 2008, 2007, that had gotten to the site plan approval. Paperwork was there, all they had to do was go and record it. And they chose not to exercise the option, and they walked away from their deposit because the economy wasn't gonna support it at that time. So yes, we're still doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I lay out sort of some numbers there for what it is. So I'm asking basically for whatever the salary increases are determined by HR and those. Keeping the full-time local inspector, keeping the full-time administrative assistant. I'm asking again for a secretary, I don't wanna call secretary, another assistant. But I was asked the other day by a member of the staff, if you had to choose between a facilities maintenance guy and another administrative assistant, I says the town would be much better served by a full-time facilities maintenance guy. I was thinking about this, I think about it, I do it. I'm not threatening to retire, but someday I am gonna retire when it stops being fun. I'll do that, so we need, but if we assign $10 million as a value to our buildings, each building, we have over $50 million worth of assets taken care of by department heads.
Yep.
And that's not their expertise, and I know that the Board of Selectmen is concerned about increasing bodies, but I will say again and again, we need professional people in expert fields doing what they do. We don't need department heads, librarians who have a degree in library science.
Fixing gutters up on the.
Right, I mean, and we assist, I assist with that, you know, I assist the police chief, the fire chief asked me, well, we've had this ongoing water problem at Station 2, and we're a few years out, or a year and a half, 2, 3 years out from a substation,
Oh, we forgot to mention that to you guys tonight.
you know.
What's that?
Something's gotta be done about that station, cause you're
Oh.
rotting all your vehicles in there, cause they're
Yeah,
all
no,
getting old.
I met the chief down there just before the meeting, and he
Yeah,
showed me the
yeah.
water situation and the
Yeah, so
pumps
he wants
needed.
to ask for money to do something in there.
You know, so I gave him a lead on someone who could guide him a little bit on you know, and get a budget number for a process. Once, of course, the budget number is developed, then we find out where it falls in the procurement rules,
Yep.
you know, and what we have to do for that. I mean, I've worked with the library director and Mr. Golis on the gutter project, and an architect on, you know, we've been working a year, I think, getting the specifications, the right program, the right procedures, so that we get the product that's gonna last us 50 years.
Yep.
You know, and once they get that project done, now we're gonna have to come back to the original building after we get that done and do that building.
Mhm.
And these projects are going on all the time,
Mhm.
so.
It'd be nice to give us somebody too that gives us a priority checklist, cause everyone's building is on fire. But how do we prioritize who's more important than the other?
Are you still considering revamping your space that we talked about a
Well,
year ago?
so that would come into play if there was another person assigned to my office,
Okay.
all right? I also know that the town went out for request for proposal and is looking at alternate locations for the senior center.
Yep.
If the senior center moves out, well, then we would reevaluate what we're doing in this building. I've often thought of, you know, do we put, quote, land use down there?
Downstairs.
And planning could have a big space, there could be an office for the planning director, the administrative assistants might be in, in a little bit of a pool arrangement where they can
Mhm.
help each other.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, you can't do that, you know, when my office, because of the regulations for fair pay, I guess is what I'm gonna call it, my office closes at lunchtime because Michelle was hired after we said that you have to take your half-hour lunch,
Okay,
right? Because we work over 8 hours,
yeah.
and you have to give the employee a half-hour lunch break. If I had another person in that office, I can't commit to being there all day, or during that time, I may be tied up on an inspection, right? Another person in that office would open that office without interruption, because we could stagger the lunch.
Yeah.
There's some senior, previously hired employees where we worked through lunch.
Okay.
And that got revamped because of that. When you got a professional HR person in,
Mm-hmm.
they said, look, you're open to a problem here,
Mm-hmm.
because you are not affording those people the ability to leave their desk
Mm-hmm.
for a half hour.
Okay. So adding another person in your office kind of mandates that you're gonna have to make space there somehow and
Right.
revamp things. And if you can't go downstairs, because I don't know when this community senior center will get off the ground.
Well, I don't know if between our last meeting and this meeting, but they went out to bid for potentially another building in town that might already have space. And I don't know where Andrew left off, if
Who
they've had.
went out to bid?
The town did, so.
The town let
Somebody
it,
had came to Andrew and said, hey, I have this space that has a commercial kitchen, office space, it's ready, we don't use it, do you want it?
Oh,
But
okay.
because of procurement laws, we can't just take it.
Yeah.
So he went out to bid, and I think he had a couple people come back and bid on space that would have to be ready, like, we can't bid it, so like Charlton Furniture would have been out, because we would have had to revamp the whole
Right.
space. It has to be space that's ready, so we're not spending money to revamp the space.
Okay.
Or at least space that meets certain qualifications. So I know that he got a couple bids back. I haven't talked to him since they've opened, because they opened right before he went on vacation. So I don't know if Kurt, if you were part of that or not.
No, that's
But,
news to me.
Yeah, so that,
Didn't
that
realize
is
that
potential, we
was-
might be able to lease a space for next
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
I did forget to mention that.
Okay.
So that, they're looking at that option rather than going towards building a new building. So that could potentially open up space for us for next year,
Mhm.
if they found a space that was suitable, so.
Okay.
And it's all math, right? You guys are the math guys, and I say this to people all the time, it's all math, that the numbers
Mm.
work.
So actually, I
Right.
think he was waiting for, I think there's something wrong with one of the proposals, I think he was waiting for something to get fixed then, so he'll probably have numbers for for our next meeting.
Okay.
You know, and it was a good, I think, a good management move on Mr. Golis's part, and to say, what are our alternates besides building a new senior center? Is there a facility in town through the RFP process? Because as Ashley said, someone came to us and says, hey, I've got this space, would you like to use it
Yeah.
for a fee? Well, we can't quite do that under procurement. Wrote the request for proposals, publicly put it out to people, that facility and another facility
okay.
expressed interest.
Good.
And maybe that is a long-term solution to the senior center problem, where we need some more, they need different space than that they have. And then that would free up space in the building, and we wouldn't be in a capital cost of building a new building, but it's just, is it gonna happen? I don't know yet, we don't know yet. But you put that in that math formula and say, okay, build a new building for, pick a number, any number, right?
13.
Yeah, millions. And pay the debt service on it, or for a lower cost, use somebody else's unused space for years and years and years.
This is just a perfect example of everything in this town seems to be interconnected with something. If this happens, we can do this and this and this, and if that happens, we could do.
It's like a chess game.
It
I
is a
I don't
chess
think it's any different than any other town.
Oh, probably not, Kurt.
You
No,
know?
I'm just,
I mean, we can look to a good friend of the town in Charlton, you know, came here, was on the fire department here, is now has been the chief of the Auburn Fire Department for a number of years.
mhm.
They've been through 3-4 iterations of what they were gonna do, public safety, were they gonna build a new fire station, were they gonna build a public safety building, where were we gonna build a public safety building? Well, wait a minute, we're gonna give up this school here, should we move the town offices into that school? Nope, that became
Right.
affordable housing, because they figured that was the best it is. Okay, well, are we gonna build a new building at Sears, or we're gonna build a new building at West Street Station, and now they've bought
Chucks.
Chuck's.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I'm having lunch with him on Friday
Okay.
to, you know, because he and I played in the same field. He worked for me when we were in Charlton. I was senior to him, and we do converse, and I find out things from him, and he leans on me as a building official, because he doesn't understand sometimes why the architects and designers are saying we have to do this. And if you remodeled their main station,
Mhm.
they would have to bring that up to current seismic code for a public safety building.
Oh.
And it becomes a mathematical problem.
Mhm.
Is it worth putting that amount of steel in that building
Mhm.
just to save that building? Or are you better off building a new building?
Mhm.
Then factor in the location.
Right.
Expansion.
That land is a lot more
Response
valuable
times.
for something other than a fire station, I gotta believe. Okay.
It was fun.
And,
Anything else?
and I take it the two pictures that were in your proposal, just to give us an example of what you
Of the
live with
paper
every day,
piled up,
huh?
I mean, even with electronics, and it's been great. I'm after the third round of going into electronic permitting, we did reach the goal of having people being able to sit at home and apply for permits, people not marching around the building getting signatures, and more direct communication through chat within that function, and the ability for people to look up and see what happened on their inspection if they chose to do so.
Mhm. congrats on that. Keep it up.
And we've expanded that program. Board of Health came on this year.
Mm-hmm.
Board of Selectmen is looking to come on for next year because of their licensing and
Also, Board of Health came on for
for
septic permits
septic
for,
permits,
in conjunction.
food purveyors,
Ah, okay, yeah.
all of that.
Fires.
Fire uses it for burning permits.
Mm-hmm.
There, we're in a transition period here where Mary Devlin is still acting as the interim ZBA clerk.
Mm-hmm.
Another reason, so we're taking her time away to do ZBA functions that might be able to be handled by a clerk out of my office.
I got you, yeah.
And we can put the
So maybe Board of
ZBA
Appeals?
into that program too.
Yeah.
So they had a very, very part-time, I think she worked like 3 hours a week. So try to fill that position. Who wants to work 3 hours a week somewhere, and it's all night meetings?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's not even, could you even call that a part-time job?
Not 3 hours a week.
We have seen, if you look, we do see communities sometimes that are advertising for recording secretaries whose function in life is to go to all these little board meetings and be the recording secretary for them. Mary, the selectman does this electronically, right?
Mhm.
It's on Zoom. Mary Devlin transcribes all the minutes for the selectmen's meeting off of Zoom.
She does the same thing for ZBA.
Does the same thing for ZBA. When I do municipal building committees meetings, I have a recorder. Michelle graciously, we do it on Zoom now, but, she transcribes off of that.
Mhm.
So, there's some of these little positions
Mm.
that are being, because of loss of staff, in one case, are being taken up by the willing employees of the town of Charlton. But
Mhm.
sometimes they wanna say, I didn't sign on this permanently.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions of Kurt? Nope. On buildings, on what's going on? His door is always open too, just like the chief's. Just make an appointment.
Well, I try always to accommodate everybody as possible. Sometimes I'm out of the building, so if you really wanna see me, make an appointment.
Make an appointment. Yeah. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, as you hear these, I'm sorry, Noreen, did you still have some questions you wanted to ask?
No, just the discrepancy
Okay.
question was, because some department heads didn't request salary increases, but they appeared in the town.
Mhm.
Yeah, we added some of them in, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all, thank you.
So as you're listening to these guys, okay, so we know Kurt's looking, for instance, for more people. We know that the fire chief's looking for 2 new, okay, and we'll probably get 1 or 2.
You'll get 4 when he asks for a building, when he
when
gets the building.
That's the building
Yeah.
down the road.
Yeah.
I'm talking about this budget.
Yeah.
But where I was going with this is, as we're hearing all of this, okay, it becomes then kind of incumbent on us to set our priorities, or what we think is important, okay? Now, we could go head-to-head with the Board of Selectmen, who says, no, that's not our priority, and then we gotta figure out, right, where we go from there. But so that's what you should be thinking about as you hear this. What is the priority? Last year, for instance, okay, a dispatcher, all right, was everybody's #1 priority, and so we stayed away from ever thinking about, you're gonna cut a dispatcher, okay? Because we all knew that was, important to everybody. So be thinking about that, I guess, is my point, as we continue these discussions. Because if this building does pass, and we've got to, and we wanna keep it under the levy limit, we're gonna have
Right.
to make some decisions.
Right, and you're gonna have to remember, that's at least 4 bodies, plus their uniform, so that's their salary, their uniform, their health insurance. your Worcester Regional, I mean, some point will go up because of them, but your, just assume that you're gonna have extra costs that are gonna increase, plus you're gonna have to now pay to maintain that building. Your electric bill's gonna go up, your gas bill's gonna go up,
I assume starting in fiscal year '26?
probably not.
But for the bodies? No?
That I'm not positive. You might not, I don't know if he would pre-train them to come on. I just don't know how much that station can hold more bodies, cause they don't have room for 7 people on a shift down there, I'm assuming. So that I'm not sure. I don't know if he would staff when the building's built or what.
Okay.
I'm assuming you probably wouldn't see a building till FY '27.
Oh, you're talking about the additional?
Yeah.
Would be-
Like that would be, I would
Yeah.
assume that would.
My understanding was after the building's built,
Okay,
Yeah, that's what I was.
yeah.
that he's got the 6 that he needs, okay?
Yeah, right now he has, if you give him the 2 more, he'll have 6 on all 4 shifts.
I'm talking about the 4 additional. ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be farther out than,
And I think
Yeah.
that is the distance between the 2 stations that kind of says, hey, we've gotta have some people there. You can't just ship people out to, wherever that street address is.
Yeah.
And that was the justification for that request coming down the road.
Well, yeah, I think you'd have to staff both stations at that point, because you have apparatus that's there and you have apparatus at the current station, you'd have to staff both. I don't think this building won't be as staffed as the current building,
No,
cause you're gonna
probably
keep
not.
most of your apparatus, I think,
But
at that
this
building,
building isn't
but,
staffed at all.
no, this
No,
building's
because it's
not,
so
right,
close to that.
Correct,
Right.
yeah.
That's the reason.
yes.
But yeah, you're right, and I think the rule of thumb says for every dollar of wages, you pay another 30% in.
Yeah, I say
Well,
usually
it's-
for a body, it's like 30 grand for insurance, give or take.
Yeah, and that's, I remember Kurt talking about revamping his office, because if he wanted more people, he needs more space.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just by putting on a person, all
Yeah.
right, there are the other costs
Right.
that can be associated with.
Yeah.
With this. It's gonna be interesting to find out more about that,
Yeah, I
Senior
know he
center.
opened bids, and I think, now that I remember, I feel like he told me there was an issue with one of them, so he was trying to reach back out. I haven't touched base with him, since then, and now he's on vacation, so I'll touch base with him when he's back, and then hopefully we'll have an update for you guys for the meeting. I think you'll have numbers by then and what they choose. And I'm assuming it obviously has to run through the board, so.
Kurt, if I heard it right, Kurt would probably come here downstairs, Kurt? Or would that be if he needed space
no, I
with
think
the
he
new
was talking
employee?
about planning going downstairs.
No, I think,
Or him
I
going
think
downstairs
their
and-
whole thing is to put a land use department downstairs, so I don't know if that encompasses Board of Health, but planning, I don't know, it'd be planning, building, conservation, Board of Health is usually your land use people. So I don't know if they would move them all down there or what, that, I haven't had talked with Andrew about that,
So
but,
they move out, then that would solve the issue with the revamping his office if we hired somebody.
right, well, you would have to then revamp downstairs, cause now you'd have to get rid of that commercial kitchen down there. Cause, I mean, I don't know if they would take any of that stuff with them, but that would have to go, and probably have to just revamp some of that down there anyway.
So there still would be costs associated
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
okay? And you're
Trying to
probably-
find some savings.
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the fire, if we do put 2 additional firemen on,
Yep,
we should cut down on overtime because of that rotation thing.
that would
That's the
hopefully be
theory.
the case, yeah,
Right? But as he
But
alluded
if-
to you, okay,
right.
People
it's,
go out, they
it's
get hurt.
injuries,
Yeah.
it's sickness.
The problem, I
it's-
think all the new people he hired, cause he had a couple people leave, and then he had the 2 openings, I think he had 5 open positions like July 1st, I think he hired 5 new bodies. And I think he had to send like 3 or 4 of them to the academy, so that gets expensive, that's 12 weeks that body's gone, and you're still paying their full salary.
Yeah.
So, in hopes, if he had a good year next year, even if you didn't give him bodies, I would hope his overtime would go back down, cause now those people have all gone to the academy, but like he said, you have injuries. You have people
Right.
that go out sick, that job is a lot of adrenaline based, so they get hurt off the job, they get hurt on the job. On the job is your responsibility, off the job's theirs,
Or 4
but,
firefighters get lured away by somebody else, we hire 4 more, boom, there they are,
Right.
it's 12 weeks at the academy,
right,
so.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's about 12 weeks, I
Yeah.
think that's what it is. And we're paying to send them to the academy, so.
Yeah.
Plus their salaries.
Well, I think it's just their salary cost, I think. I don't think
Oh,
it's
we don't
extra.
pay for the academy itself?
I don't think so, but don't quote me on that. I don't remember ever seeing a bill for those. But I know we pay their salary to send them there.
Mhm. Okay.
And then I think if we're not sending them in a car, I think we also are responsible for paying their gas to go out there. But I think he sends them in a car usually. So,
Nice
all
deal.
that union.
All right, anything else anybody got, wanna bring up tonight? Again, it's almost 8 o'clock, I like to end at 8 o'clock. I will tell you, the biggest reason I wanted Christian elected tonight as vice, because I will not be here next month. I will be away.
I'm probably gone too.
You will be too? I will call Mike and say, make sure, and Jamie. Jamie's here too.
And if not, if we have to push back, just let me know and I can let the departments know.
Okay.
I think you have a full meeting, next meeting too. Like I said, you want,
Yeah,
I think
you
we
sent
have
me the
water,
schedule
sewer,
already.
you have Bay Path. I think Board of Health might have backed out, cause he doesn't have any changes, but you have the library, I think the assessors.
When does W. Charlton come? Not until
I don't think they, I don't
March,
know
right?
if they're coming, because that joint meeting, I think, took place, they said they needed to come back, they would, but I think
That's
he's
true.
assuming that joint meeting took place of that.
And it was just a budget preview.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna have another budget workshop or not, invite everybody back again, that I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, there being nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Have a second, any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Vote.